Good afternoon and welcome back to the channel. My name is Lewis. I hope you're all well. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the jazz albums I've been listening to recently. I'm going to talk about each album in turn and why I would recommend that album to you. So first of all is an album from 1971 by a sax player called Charles McPherson, and the album's entitled Siku Ya Bibi, or otherwise known as Day of the Lady. And why that's important is it's dedicated to Miss Billie Holiday. So yeah, I like this cover, particularly that moustache. I'm rather jealous of it. It's rather luscious. But yeah, like the cover. Yeah, it's okay. Um, this is an this is an exquisite soul jazz album. I've had this for some time. As you can see, it looks a bit worn. Played it, yeah, quite a bit. It's dropped down my pecking order, but that's not to say I don't like it. I do. It's just when you get to a certain number of albums, it's hard to rotate them. But yeah, I got a soft spot for this one, and it's for the following reasons. Um, Super high production values on this particular album with lush, expansive orchestrations. Um, there is a notable dreamy quality on show here, with touches of 50s and 60s soundscape. Um, I would say, in terms of the orchestration, it's in the same ballpark as somebody like Nelson Riddle or Billy May, that sort of level. So yeah, a lot of time and attention was put in there, and you can certainly hear it on this particular vinyl. Um, there are also film noir undertones. It's bluesy in part, and I do genuinely feel when I've listened to this album that it would make fitting incidental music for any classic film soundtrack. And the types of films I'd be talking about is like a Chinatown or a Thomas Crown Affair, those kind of like detective, intrigue thriller type. Yeah, this would fit in really nice and with those particular types of films. So yeah, I've got a lot of time for this album. McPherson's sax style is one where he tends to linger on each note for as long as possible. And I would say the better equipment you've got to listen to this particular album on, the more you will notice that. Um, yeah, it's you'd be amazed on how long he actually holds a note for. And it's not a bad thing or anything. It's just a characteristic of his playing style, and I do appreciate that. So yeah, I've got a lot of time for this. So the notables on this album are Bob Shad, who is the producer of this album. And if you've never heard of Bob Shad, please have a look. Yeah, Wikipedia him or look on Google. He's been involved in quite a few albums, and it's usually going to be a very good production if he's involved in it. I would also mention a Barry Harris on piano, who's done a lovely job on this particular album. Never heard of the gentleman before, but I will look out for him in the future. Yeah, his piano talent is nothing to be like sniffed at. It's really good. So the three tracks that I would recommend from this album would be I'm a Fool to Want You, Don't Explain, and For Heaven's Sake. Yeah, those three tracks. Yeah, once I revisited them, I just couldn't leave those tracks alone. I kept listening to them again and again. I think they're just really good. So that's the first album for today. The second album is more in the spiritual jazz side of things, and this is a 1980 release, and it's by the World Experience Orchestra, and the album is entitled As Time Flows On. I do like this album. It's totally, yeah. I've got a small section of my collection which is in the spiritual jazz side of things. It is building with every week and month. I'm finding uh, new albums to add to that part of my collection, and yeah, I do like this one. I'm not saying it's without faults, but I really do like it. The overarching mantra with this particular album is to do nothing means to go backwards. I would say that's the overall statement in this particular one, and it's quite an apt philosophy to hold. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Yeah, as I said, it's in terms of spiritual jazz, it's a lovely odyssey. It's a lovely journey. This particular one. Um, all the tracks are structured around the conscious and positive-minded poetry of Larry Rowland, who's part of the band. Yeah, it's just a nice. I'll go on to why I like it anyway. There is a genuine compassion and love for your fellow man on this particular album. Is the lyrical content is to do with learning from one's mistake or learning from other people's mistakes, and just trying to trying to do your best, each day, each year, the whole of your life type of thing. Now, some people would say that's slightly naive, and I can sympathize with that particular outlook because it is the lyrical content of young men who, let's say, pre-mortgage, pre-kids. They would tend to have a different outlook on life compared to those who do have like further responsibilities. Um, but I would, in its defense, say that the lyrical content, is not done with any kind of malice or stupidity or anything like that, and it certainly isn't virtue signaling. It's just the honest appraisal of a set of young men at that particular point in their lives. That's it basically. So they can hardly be condemned for it. But I think it ages quite well. I think the sentiments are just. Perhaps we should all be living in this particular way which they advocate. But sometimes it's easier said than done. Um, you might expect this album to be on the raw side of things, seeing as this was originally a private pressing, a limited one. But mm, I wouldn't go that far. I listened to this a few times, and on the first, second, and third run through, at no point did I think, "Oh, this is raw." It's got it's got a limited budget, or it's suffering from not being done in a studio, professional studio. No, I wasn't thinking any of those things when actually listening to the album itself. So yeah, you could disagree with me. You could say, yeah, it did sound raw in your opinion, but I would say this is like not even a major concern in terms of like the quality of this album. The notables on this album are Roy Hall, who performs superb vocals and percussion on this album, and it's pretty much his stamp which makes this album successful. Yeah, really enjoyed his singing style. The tracks that I would look out for would be Rain, To Do Nothing, and Black Woman. Now, there is various, there's at least two or three different versions of this album still available. It might be on the expensive side on vinyl, but certainly in terms of CD and streaming, you should be able to get a hold of it pretty easy. Yes, the original of this album is ridiculous amounts of money for it. I would never be able to justify spending that much money on the original of this. I wouldn't want to. But yeah, this is a repress, available a couple of years ago. It's going to be expensive still, but relatively compared to the original, it's not. Yeah, it's not even close. So if you do like the sound, seek it out. With a bit of effort, you should be able to get hold of it. Yes. like I said, this is part of my collection, which I'm always trying to expand, because I do like the spiritual jazz sound in general. I like the direction of it, so I tend to pursue it. So yeah, very welcome to my collection, and hopefully you'll feel the same and have it as part of yours. Now, the third and final album for today was it's just one of those things I found on a website, and um, I hadn't heard of it before. I had no idea. And judging by what I believe the sales to be, it wasn't particularly successful, and I'm not entirely sure why. This is a 1961 release by a quartet called the Remo Rao Quartet, and the album's entitled An Evening at Cafe Africana. Right, yeah, like the cover. It's kind of got a Blue Note feel to it. Yeah, I think that's really nice. This is an absolutely gorgeous piece of European jazz. As soon as I heard it, it's like, yeah, I'm getting that. That's yeah, I'm adding that to my collection. Yeah. This is a non-professional quartet hailing from Zurich, Switzerland, and Cafe Africana was the quartet's venue of choice for their informal sessions. So yeah, I'll continue. Recorded live from the venue, this album has all the hallmarks of authenticity. So what I mean by that is, because, yeah, it's pretty much a self-explanatory statement. Um, because it was recorded in the venue, you get that lovely hubbub of people, having a good time at the venue at the same time this is being recorded and the musicians are playing. So you do hear people's voices, you hear the clink of, glasses coming together, and yeah, just people having a good time. See, I think that's a really nice thing to hear on live albums. It just gives it that, for me anyway. It helps me to immerse myself in that particular album, that sound, and what was going on at that time. So yes, for me, it's a welcome addition, rather than sometimes you get the studio-based albums, which are just clinical. I sometimes like to hear people in the background. It just makes it a bit more interesting. So there you go. Um, my overall feeling with this particular album is that both you and I wish we were this cool, and we're not. We just have to live with that. So yeah, if you do see this album, I would recommend it, and it's based on the following tracks: Night and Day, Mannequin, and Carol's Interlude. I would also say there's a few notables on this album, and they're primarily the other band members. Renato Anselmi on piano, Roger Pierre on bass, and Alex Bally on drums. Really good. Like I said, they were non-professionals at the time, so that just gives another layer of, these dudes were doing other things and they could still produce music of this quality. I doff my cap to you. So yeah, really good. So not sure how easy this is going to be. Well, how easy, if you do like it, to get hold of it. It might turn out to be on the pricey side, but it was originally a limited private pressing. This is a reproduction. Even that was slightly pricey, but I thought it was fully worth the money. So have a look out for it if you think that it's in your ballpark and would make a welcome addition to your collection. So that was the third and final album. I'd like to thank you again for sharing some of your time with me and letting me just meander on about records I've been listening to. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you so choose, feel free to like, subscribe, comment down below, share. Yes, like I said, absolute pleasure. I will see you for the next episode. So until then, look after yourselves, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.